Travis. Okay, I lost Aiden, but here he is. Oh. How are you, Judah? Hi, Philip, how are you?
To the Ann Arbor Human Rights Commission meeting. Let's begin with a roll call. Denise?
Sure. Commissioner Dent?
Present from Ypsilanti.
Thank you for stating your location. Commissioner Cass? Commissioner Dawes?
Present from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes, Gina Cowan from Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Winkler?
Linda Winkler in Watertown, Massachusetts.
Yes, okay. Vice Chair Garber?
Here in Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Ghazi?
Here in Ann Arbor.
Commissioner Sova?
Here in Ann Arbor.
Councilmember Redina?
Here in Ann Arbor.
Councilmember Nelson?
Here in Ann Arbor.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
And I'm Leslie Stambon. I'm here in Ann Arbor.
Sorry, Leslie. I saw you the lowest. Always miss one.
But we have an international representation, or a national representation with Linda. That's good. Is there anybody who is signing up for public comment? Now
No, I don't have anyone on hold presently.
Okay. Then let's look at the agenda. Any comments, changes, additions, subtractions on the agenda that anybody would like to make? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda accepted. Minutes for the November 10th meeting.
I saw one kind of, it's not really a typo, it's just the spelling of Ariane Slade. It's in the minutes, Adrienne Slade.
That's not right, yes. Where is it?
I was looking for it to find it. It's under facial recognition,
Okay.
under the October 21-191,
Yes.
under facial recognition.
Oh.
City attorney should say Ariane Slade.
Yes.
Okay.
I have one change to also. The second to the last title should be Commissioner's Communication. Commissioner Communications.
Commissioners, okay.
Commissioner communication.
Commissioners with an S, Leslie?
No, communications with an S.
Commissioner Communications.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Anything else? We have a motion to approve with changes.
I motion to approve with changes.
I'll second.
All in favor? Minutes approved.
Aye.
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 And minutes are approved. Okay. Follow up from on outside groups. City Council, Travis and Elizabeth, do you have anything to report to us that is relevant to what we do? Is that a no? And we'll go on. Facial recognition, Aiden and Travis. Anything to report new?
Yeah, Travis today sent out a new communication, essentially furthering our request for movement in this area. And I'm sure that he has more to say on that, but communication is being had.
Yes, I spoke with Attorney Slay today. She is working on the new draft, but does not have anything that she has been able to share with the work group yet. So this is one of those things where we're essentially waiting for staff to have some additional time to finish drafting. So I know the attorney's staff has been busy, but hopefully we will have something to review here before the holidays, and we'll be able to focus on this in January. I think CTN is talking. I think we can hear through CTN.
Ah,
I don't know why.
okay.
They need to mute. They were talking on the phone.
CTN, are you, if you're listening, please mute yourselves. How's that?
Yep, that did it.
Okay, I muted them.
Yeah, I did as well.
Oh, that's right. You could mute them. I could have asked you.
Yes.
Thank you. Community outreach. Aisha, just to remind you that at our strategic planning meeting, we decided we needed to think about community outreach more systematically. And Aisha agreed to sort of head that effort. So Aisha, we'd like to hear from you.
So, we have been talking kind of on an ongoing basis about an Asian American town hall. And we've kind of, I think that we missed kind of a moment that was really critical. That's not to say that we didn't do activism on this issue. We definitely did.
Mm-hmm.
We were, cited in some of the state efforts that was fighting and combating anti-Asian American sentiment. So through discussions, we've decided we want to kind of expand our community outreach plan to be more broad. So doing kind of targeted community outreach to all communities, not just Asian Americans. And so Diana and I are going to be working on coming up with a community or communications and community outreach plan. So that would include that script that we talked about, just reading before each meeting, saying who we are and how to file a complaint. It would include kind of process in terms of attending community events and having a flyer with us on how to report something, and other sort of thing. So if you're interested in volunteering and joining us in this effort, contact me and let me know, because we'd welcome more volunteers.
Thank you. Conversion therapy logistics. Diana's not here today because her department is chairing a big event for her workplace. So she asked me to pass on some information to you. If you remember, we were talking about conversion therapy, the fact that while we usually deal with adults and try to outreach to adults, this is some place where we need to do outreach with minors, because those are the people who are most affected by conversion therapy and would be the ones who would recognize that it was happening first. Diana volunteered to do that outreach. She has submitted an application that she told us about to the Ann Arbor Public Schools and got the Human Rights Commission accepted as a community partner to the AAPS, which is a nice thing. We'll find out more about it and what that means. But she's also reached out to Neutral Zone. And at the beginning of the year, she's planning on meeting with them to talk about how they can get involved. And that's very exciting. We worked with Neutral Zone years ago, and it was just a real positive experience. And so I'm looking forward to that. Next thing on our agenda is fair chance housing. And there's some good news about that. Margie, do you want to break it? The good news?
So our office was in federal court recently on the injunction that was filed against the early leasing ordinance and the fair access to housing ordinance. And I'm happy to report that the judge denied the request for the injunction, primarily because one of the factors that has to be looked at is the likelihood of success on the merits of the whole case overall. And so she felt that they were unlikely to succeed on both the ordinances, and actually spent quite a bit of time on the fair access to housing ordinance, even saying that if she took the position of the landlords that people couldn't change, she would have to hang up her robe, and didn't feel as if she could do her job if she were to adopt their position. So we consider that very good news, and great work, you guys.
Thank you. You said, I want to clarify this because I understood you to say that because she denied the preliminary injunction, that it is unlikely that this case will go any further. Is that?
No, they're going to take it to the next step, but one of the factors you have to look at is whether or not they have a likelihood of success on the merits. So early indications are that the case as a whole will not be found in their favor. So we should succeed. They just wanted to enjoin us to stop everything and keep the status quo before reviewing the ultimate merits of the case.
Okay. Any other questions about this? It sounds like a very good thing for us. And I'm glad that it's worked out that way. Very glad.
Leslie, just a quick question of Margaret.
Sure.
So I've been reading that the landlords are engaging in an end run, if you will, around that ordinance. And can you speak to that and see, does it have any, does it in any way factor into will it in some respects play a part in being addressed if the landlords pursue this and maybe affect the outcome, or will it in some respects perhaps work against them because they are engaging in this activity?
I mean, I can't speak to how it ends up. I guess, Pam, are you referring to the early leasing ordinance? Because that's where we're seeing a lot of the reports of these, quote unquote loopholes that the landlords believe they've found and ways to get around it. So yeah, we're getting complaints on those. So those will ultimately come up. I don't think it will help them, that's for sure. I mean, if we do find a hole that we believe is legitimate, I'm sure we would bring it to council to plug. But the fair access, I'm not aware. I mean, we've had, I believe, maybe one complaint. I can't recall, but we haven't been hearing a lot of runarounds on that one. Most landlords that we've had complaints against, I've spoken with Leslie and Linda in particular, once we alert them to the ordinance, they change their behavior. But yeah, the early leasing ordinance, I know is, there's been some interesting actions from our landlords.
Okay.
Linda?
I just had a question of Margie. Do you know if the letter was ever sent to the registered landlords?
I was told it was.
Okay,
Oh, good.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. I wonder if it will be time early next year to do something else, just to remind people that it's there. As maybe especially before rental season. I don't know. But we'll think about it next year. I'm becoming more aware of the need to educate about ordinances that we care about. Complaints. Denise sent me a list of open complaints. We talked about that. In fact, given what Aisha just said, I should remind people that we do take complaints about the violation of the non-discrimination ordinance. So if anybody who's listening feels like they have been discriminated on the basis of race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, there's quite a list. Please come to our website, look at the list, look at what we look at, and if you think you've been discriminated against, or there's a possibility, or you want to ask the Human Rights Commission any questions about it, please get in touch with us. We have ways to do that on the Human Rights Commission website. But we've still got about 5 human rights complaints that are not closed, but everything seems to be coming to a close. So there's not that much to talk about right now. We haven't seen patterns yet, but I think this is a pattern toward the end of the year, but we'll see. However, there's not much to talk about right now, but we do have something that's kind of on the table, and that is the possibility that we can build a database of the complaints we've received since about 2014, which might be very useful for us. Last month, Keita Cowan gave us a mock-up. What was that?
That was Keita. I think we lost her.
I think we lost. I didn't mean to do that.
She's gone.
She's gone. Well, she and I talked about it. She presented us with a mock-up of a possible database, and we started talking about what we wanted to do with this. What questions would we like to ask a database? And because if you make a database, you want it to be able to answer the questions that you have. And we realized there were a lot of things that we wanted to ask that we needed even a bigger database on. One that the person who was handling the complaint could deal with, could add to, not just one that had the information that was on the form, the complaint form, but also one that talked about who was handling the case and what was happening during the case and what was the outcome. We think that it would be not really helpful if a couple people would get together and talk about what we need from the database to make sure that what we construct will actually be useful for everybody. And so I'm thinking, who would be interested in doing that? It's probably a meeting one time, but thinking about what do we need to know, and from a couple different perspectives. Aiden, were you gonna?
I was going to say I'd be happy to volunteer for the meeting in the new year, as long as it's after the holidays. That should be fine.
Definitely would be after the
Me
holidays.
too.
Linda?
Me too.
Good. And Aisha, excellent.
And can I add, please? I'm sorry. It would be great and really important if Denise would join us, since she will be the keeper of this.
Yes.
And she will have to, we might even want to talk to Denise. We might even want to talk to you beforehand about the software issues and what this, how this would happen, exactly. And it would require knowing maybe what sort of software the city has, because I'm not sure, but I think what Keita used is not necessarily what the city has. So,
well, to be honest, I think that we got to figure out what we need to do. The software can be mounted on a lot of different kinds of software. It's not going to be, but you need to know how you're going to use it. And that's going to be key.
Maybe. I don't know enough about the how
Yeah.
those two things would, it's helpful to know what the format would be before I just don't know.
Yeah.
So it is dependent, like the city has the technological capabilities to run the software that we mentioned in the last meeting. And Linda, I know that you know this, but it's more so a question of what existing business partnerships do we have? So it'll more so be with like what softwares we're allowed to run and not run on our government,
Right.
systems.
And whether it has to be something that the government, the city system.
So essentially, I'm saying like a roadblock I could potentially see is that if her software that she's proposing is not an existing partnership that is there already, we would not be able to use it just from that experience alone, or would have to look into an alternative means.
I think, I don't know, Margie, you might know better than we would, but I would imagine Denise is somewhat constrained in using the software that already exists at the city level, and that we can't actually bring in something else. Are there security issues around maintaining it and everything else?
Absolutely. From my point, yes.
Yeah, I think Aiden hit the nail on the head. As we would need, IT would actually be the ones who would need to acquire the actual software.
Right.
The city would. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
I'm back. I was able to hear everything.
Oh, good.
I'm definitely anxious and eager to serve on the subcommittee.
Yeah.
And I believe that, in fact, I know Tim used SQL Server.
SQL. Okay.
SQL Server.
Okay.
To create that, but he was clear that it was very basic and that there were other similar database softwares that function pretty much the same. So I don't think it would affect the way, the type of information we gather.
I think that's true, but we certainly could ask Nick and just make sure.
Yeah.
But I can imagine doing it, if worse came to worse, you could do it on Excel. I mean, it's not that hard.
Denise, did you have a chance to check with IT? If not, I can send Tom Stuchek a note right now.
I can always check with Nick in the morning. I was discussing some information about their present SharePoint that we have now. So I could just add that to the list because we're going to have some conversation tomorrow morning. So,
and just as an added note as well, without knowing the full breadth of the existing contracts and partnerships with these companies and businesses, SQL is owned by Microsoft, and assuming that we all do have Outlook emails and we're powered by Microsoft, I would assume that SQL should have full compatibility and capabilities. But obviously check in with the appropriate people here. I would think that it would be fine to do so.
In the basic Office suite of software that you get, there is a database package. I think it's called Basic, but it's in the database package. So we wouldn't need to go to Excel, which wouldn't allow us to do a database, but we could just use whatever works with Microsoft.
Well, Access works with Microsoft. Sounds like SQL works with, so there are lots of possibilities. Okay, well, look, so we'll have to talk to Nick also about what's possible. Okay, so we'll get those people together. The other thing I want to say is I did ask remember we were going to add people who'd never worked on complaints before as soon as possible. And we've got 2 people who wanted to be scheduled in January. I think that's Keita and Aiden. January, February, and March. And then April, May, and June we'll add 2 more people. I think that's Aisha and at any rate, whatever you ask, we will do. Aisha is July through September and Diana is April through June. So we will, by the by June, I think, have everybody initiated into complaint handling. That'll give us even more power to handle complaints well, and that's exciting. Trespass. Linda, you want to say something about that? Or is there anything
Well,
else?
I mean, Leslie Leslie took another look at the memo, which we had written quite a while ago. We need to update it based on the feedback from Francis of ICPOC, who was working on this with us. And on rereading it, we realized we kind of needed to, especially because we have a new police chief now, we needed to do a longer introduction and so give a little history of where we've been on trespass, because the former police chief knew, but this one doesn't. And so we're editing it a little, but I think it's almost ready to go. Leslie was thinking of doing something further with it. I did my part. I gave it to Leslie, and hopefully we will finally set up a meeting soon with the chief.
Yeah.
And I guess with Ariane too, if that works.
This is a joint ICPOC HRC thing that has to do with transitioning now that ICPOC is up and running. When we get the trespass notice done, we'll send everybody a copy. And we'll keep you informed, I guess, about what's going on with it. It's just changing the possibility again to make it more protective of human rights. If there's nothing else about complaints or trespass, I will go on to meeting schedule. Did everybody get the meeting schedule? For some reason, I had a lot of trouble mailing it to people, emailing it to people. Good. I think Denise probably went through and made sure that we weren't having meetings on anybody's holiday, and I did too. And all I found was the World Ocean Day was on one of our holidays, and I didn't think that was one of our meetings. I thought that was okay.
I did too.
Do you have any question or any problems with the schedule? Judah?
Yeah, I didn't receive for some reason, it didn't hit my inbox.
I'm not doing very well mailing to you at all.
I can send him a copy.
Can you send him a copy right now?
I'll do it.
Okay. What if we move on to the next topic so that Judah will have a time to look at this and then come back to it?
Okay. Thanks.
Is that okay with everybody? The next topic that I put on here has to do with a resolution that City Council made in March or April for unarmed response to emergency calls. This is the resolution to help deal with the problem that police are answering mental health calls or calls that they're not trained to handle very well, and sometimes it causes a lot of problems. The City Council's resolution had two options for the city administrator. This was a resolution to ask the city administrator to do one of two things: either to come up with a plan and start presenting the plan and start preparing to implement it, or writing a report by December 31st about why this isn't a good idea. Now that was in March or April. Since then, we've had 3 different city administrators, and now it is Milton. Is his name Dahomey? Dahomey?
Honey.
Is that the way it's spelled or pronounced? Now it's up to him. and he's not had very much time, but Lisa has talked to him. And he wasn't willing to divulge any plan, but he said he would have it by December 31st. And that sounds like he's got lots of objections, but it's not clear. I mean, that given the way the resolution was framed, it sounded like if there wasn't one, what was expected was a report about why not. I don't know if that's true, but he's going to come up with something, he says, by the 31st of December. The Police Oversight Commission is kind of concerned because they thought they were going to be part of a discussion. They've done a lot of research, looked at a lot of plans in other municipalities across the country, and they have ideas. And they also know that we probably care about this issue too. This is clearly a human rights issue as well as a policing issue. I'm bringing this up not because I hope you all read all that stuff that I sent to you right away, but I think that we ought to be prepared after the 31st to respond to it in some way. And we won't have that much time before our first meeting, so please consider reading it. I don't know what else do you need. I